Shabbat Shalom. This week's Torah portion is Kedoshim, which means holy. It begins in Leviticus chapter 19, and we have the opening phrase, "You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." This chapter and this portion actually continues the sort of commandments that we had in the previous portion. We have a combination of actions that are considered moral and are considered good, and all kinds of other important commandments having to do with civil behavior. I'd like to focus on chapter 20. Here we have a commandment having to do with pagan worship, a particular type of pagan worship. Chapter 20. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Again, you shall say to the children of Israel, whoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that gives any of his seed to Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones, and I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he has given of his seed to Molech, to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name. And if the people of the land do at all hide their eyes from that man when he gives of his seed to Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go astray after him, going astray after Molech from among their people." This, of course, refers to the abominable practice of child sacrifice that was prevalent in Canaan, and which we meet later on in the book of Kings, when the prophets complain that there are even people within the people of Israel who are sacrificing their children to Molech. Now, the assumption has always been, and at least I always assumed, that Molech was the name of a pagan god, that the type of worship that one would worship the Molech was through child sacrifice. And indeed, this is the approach of the classic commentators. Just recently, however, I heard a very interesting piece of information, that Molech is not the name of a god that is included in the pantheon of gods that we know of today from the ancient Eastern world, the area of Mesopotamia, of Canaan. This is not a god that is known. On the other hand, in the ancient Semitic languages, the word Molech actually is synonymous with the word sacrifice. Now, when I go back and I read these verses with that in mind, I believe the verses take on a different and probably far more significant interpretation. Because instead of saying anyone who gives of his seed to Molech, if I say anyone who gives of his seed to a sacrifice, I think the meaning is that much more powerful. Because then the focus is not on how we worship a particular god, and therefore it is this god or this type of worship that is problematic, but is any kind of worship that includes, or any kind of practice that includes, making a sacrifice of your child. In other words, the focus here is not on Molech, the focus here is on child sacrifice. And in that way, this prohibition becomes that much more far-ranging. Now, while today, the kind of pagan worship that we read about in the Bible is rare, it's certainly not the kind of worship that we confront anywhere in the Western world, certainly not even in any of the Middle East or most of the world as we know it today, most of the civilized world. We certainly do not encounter child sacrifice in the literal sense, in the sense that we're talking about here, of some sort of a god who is demanding that you take and bring a child, put him on an altar, or whatever. On the other hand, there are certainly cultures today that one way or another are sacrificing their children, doing something terrible to their children in advancement of some crazy or corrupt cause. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is suicide bombers. The atmosphere of martyrdom that we see here in the Middle East, where people, and we see this, thank God today we have fewer suicide bombers than we may have had in the past, but we still see this from time to time. An Arab young person, more often than not, who sacrifices himself is cheered on by his mother, by his parents. He is considered a shaheed, a martyr. This then is a society who has given their children as sacrifices. And this, of course, is one of the worst possible crimes that a person can permit. And what we have here, if we pay attention, not only against the particular crime, the entire these chapters that we're reading now at this time of year are full of things you're not allowed to do that come with it that are accompanied by some very serious punishments. But this is a very unusual phrase here, because here we have, in addition, God setting a requirement of the society. It's not enough to punish the people who are actually bringing their children as sacrifice. But what God then says is that if the people of the land do hide their eyes from that man when he gives of his seed to Moloch, if the society around them are looking and seeing this happen and they don't do anything, they don't stop him, they don't punish him, then God will bring justice upon that society as well. And isn't that a situation that we are seeing today? When we see some of the most corrupt, violent, horrible behaviors on the part of our neighbors with regard to child sacrifice. And not even if not everybody is sending their children to be a suicide bomber. We have a society that glorifies it. We have this on television and the society watches it and applauds. And even those who don't applaud, they do nothing to stop it. They do not protest. In that situation, God says he will bring judgment upon them as well. They too will be cut off. And I would say even more significant. I will set my face against that man. They will not be able to see God's face. They will not be able to approach God. Because in doing this sort of heinous crime, they have cut themselves off from God. Shabbat Shalom from Samaria.